Okay, let's dive in. So picture this. You're hitting the books, right? Paying serious money for a university course. And things start feeling a bit, well, off. Maybe the handouts seem a little, I don't know, janky. Some strange errors are popping up. And then it hits you, wait a second, is my professor actually using AI like ChatGPT to write this stuff?
Not just like checking spelling, but actually generating the core content.
Exactly.
Well, if you were a senior named Ellis Stapleton at Northeast University not long ago, that's precisely what you suspected happened. And your reaction?
Yeah.
You asked for a full tuition refund for that class, all $8,000.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty wild at first glance, doesn't it? Professor used AI, give me my money back.
Right.
But digging into the sources, it seems this one incident, this bold move by a student, it actually opens up a much bigger, more tangled picture about where education is heading.
Oh, it really does. This isn't just some quirky one-off story. It's a real flashpoint. It perfectly shows the kind of tensions that are just bubbling up everywhere as AI stops being sci-fi and, actually pulls up the chair in the classroom.
And the numbers really back that up, don't they? It's not niche. This is a massive growing market.
Huge.
Global spending on AI in education was already, $2.5 billion back in 2022?
Yep. And projected to more than double that, over $5 billion by 2025. It's here, and it's scaling up incredibly fast.
So that Northeast University case, even though it's specific, it really is a microcosm, like you said. Our sources dive right into that situation and then kind of zoom out to look at the whole landscape.
Yeah, for teachers, for students, for the universities, trying to figure it all out.
And that's basically our mission today, right? We're going to unpack that Northeast story, see what it reveals about what's really going on underneath, explore the potential upsides of AI and learning, which are there, but also stare right at the risks, the tricky ethical bits, see how different places are trying to create some rules, and figure out what this huge shift means for you listening right now.
Because it really does go way beyond one professor or one student feeling ripped off. It makes us ask some fundamental questions about value. Like, what are you actually paying for when you sign up for a class now that AI can churn out stuff that, used to take a human? What does learning even mean in this context?
Okay, let's unpack the Northeast story itself first. Ellis Stapleton, organizational behavior class, Professor Rick Arrowwood. She started getting suspicious because of, inconsistencies, errors in the materials.
Yeah, the sources get specific. She spotted actual remnants of AI instructions kind of left in the text. Things like expand all areas to be more detailed, still sitting there on handouts or slides.
Whoops.
Right. And weird AI-generated images. The kind with distorted figures, extra limbs, those telltale glitches, plus just general factual errors and sort of awkward phrasing.
Clear signs that, hey, maybe a human didn't fully write or vet this. So she flagged it, filed the formal complaint, and yes, the big headline was that $8,000 tuition refund demand.
And her argument wasn't just that the materials were, quote, sloppy and low quality, though she did say that.
Right.
The really sharp point was the perceived hypocrisy. Yeah. Because the course syllabus itself explicitly bans students from using AI without permission, calling it academic dishonesty.
The double standard. That feels like the core issue right there, doesn't it?
Totally.
If students can't use AI because it undermines learning or integrity, what does it signal when the teaching material itself comes from that same tech? It hits right at the value proposition. Are you paying for human expertise or for content spat out by software?
Professor Arrowwood, he did later confirm using tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, and Gamma. His explanation was that he used them mainly to help organize notes and refine materials he already had.
Right.
And he did express regret, specifically for not telling the students he was using these tools.
Right. And that lack of transparency, the sources really emphasized that. It wasn't just using the AI, but keeping it quiet, especially when students had different rules. That seems critical.
Exactly. Now, the university's official line, they denied Stapleton's refund request.
What?
They said they support integrating AI in education and are, quote, actively updating their policies to figure out this new terrain, trying to balance tech progress with academic integrity.
That phrase, actively updating policies, feels like a theme song for pretty much every educational institution right now.
It really does. And the sources highlight this. Northeast did have general AI policies for, university operations, but specific standards for using generative AI in teaching, those were explicitly noted as upcoming.
So a policy vacuum.
Yeah.
Or at least ambiguity.
Precisely. And that's key to this conflict. The tech got used in the classroom before the institution had laid down clear, specific, communicated rules for how instructors should use it.
So the professor probably saw efficiency, faster outlining, drafting, and just went for it. Maybe didn't fully think through the student reaction or the ethical side of not disclosing it, especially given the rules for students.
That's the analysis in the
Right.
sources, yeah. Motivation seemed like efficiency, streamlining his workload. But the quality issues students spotted, combined with the lack of transparency, showed a gap. Maybe a gap in understanding the student view or the ethical need for openness here. It's a learning curve, for sure, but maybe one that needed more thought before putting AI-generated stuff right into core teaching materials.
And that $8,000 demand, even though denied, it's such a potent symbol, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It directly challenges that old, unspoken agreement in education. It explicitly ties the tuition money to how the educational content is actually made and delivered.
Yeah, it really forces universities to justify AI, not just as some abstract innovation or efficiency gain, but in terms of actually maintaining or hopefully enhancing the perceived quality of education and, crucially, student trust. The core tension here is that individual tech adoption is just sprinting ahead,
Right.
while institutional policy is still jogging, trying to catch up, and that gap, that's where conflicts like this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That dynamic, that lag, we see it all the time with tech shifts, but AI feels particularly disruptive.
And what's really striking here is how fast teachers themselves are adopting it. They aren't waiting for official memos. They're experimenting, trying things out to make their jobs easier or maybe teach better. And that's happening way faster than the institutions can build solid frameworks.
Okay, let's zoom out from Northeast then. Look at the bigger picture for teachers. What are the real upsides that sources point to when educators use these AI tools, responsibly?
Well, the number one benefit you hear about is efficiency, a big boost there. AI can really take on a lot of those time-sucking admin tasks teachers drown in.
Like what kind of tasks?
Think about drafting routine emails, generating initial outlines for lesson plans, creating maybe different versions of content for different student needs based on learning standards, even helping with grading some objective stuff.
The sources mention specific tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Microsoft Copilot for lesson planning, or things like Diffit, Gamma, Edgeway.ai.
Exactly. Tools designed to help teachers quickly whip up presentations or adapt reading materials for different levels.
Okay.
The promise is, by automating or assisting with that kind of thing, AI frees up the teacher's time and energy to focus on what AI can't do.
The human element.
Right. Building relationships, giving that nuanced personal feedback, designing really creative, complex assignments, managing the classroom, all that human stuff.
That sounds like the ideal goal. Yeah. Freeing up time for teaching, not just admin. What about personalization?
Huge potential there, definitely. AI systems can analyze how a student was doing, how they interact with material, and then tailor the learning experience.
Oh, so?
Well, adaptive platforms like Conmigo or Dreambox, they can adjust the difficulty, the type of content, literally in real time based on how that specific student is progressing. It's like a level of personalized tutoring that one teacher just physically cannot do for 30 kids at once.
Right. Tailoring the path for each student. That does sound powerful.
It really is. And AI can help create diverse materials, too. Maybe generate different quiz variations or specific case studies, or even draft multiple explanations of a concept for different learning styles.
Huh.
This actually connects back to Professor Arrowwood's attempt, right? Generating materials isn't inherently bad.
It's the how
Exactly. How it's done, the quality control, the transparency.
and grading. Always a huge time sink.
Tools like quizzes or Class Companion can automate parts of grading, especially for certain assessment types, and they can give students instant feedback, which is great.
Oh.
Some really innovative uses even involve AI giving feedback to the teacher on their own teaching.
Wait, really?
Analyzing classroom transcripts to look at speaking patterns, maybe, or using video analysis tools to help teachers see how they could refine their techniques.
Wow, okay. AI as a professional development tool. Didn't see that coming.
And finally, data analysis.
Yeah.
AI can crunch huge amounts of student data to spot trends, maybe predict which students might be starting to struggle, and give teachers actual insights to adjust their strategies.
Okay, so lots of potential upsides for teachers. Efficiency, more time, personalization, better materials, faster feedback, data insights. But what are the big risks and challenges the sources flag for educators?
Well, as the Northeast case showed so clearly, the big one is that ethical tightrope around transparency.
All right.
If teachers use AI but don't disclose it, especially when students are under different rules, it just kills trust. It looks hypocritical, unfair. So having clear ethical guidelines about acceptable use and when you must disclose is absolutely critical.
And data privacy and security, that's got to be huge too, right? These tools are handling sensitive student info.
Hugely important. Teachers absolutely need to know about data protection laws like FERPA in the US or GDPR elsewhere. They have to make sure any AI tool they use is compliant and has strong security to prevent breaches or misuse of student data.
What about bias? We hear so much about algorithmic bias. How does that play out in teaching?
It's a really serious concern. If the AI models themselves were trained on data that reflects existing societal biases, maybe around race, gender, socioeconomic status, then the AI could unintentionally just repeat and amplify those biases.
How would that look in practice?
Could be biased grading on certain tasks, maybe unfair content recommendations, or inequitable access to that personalized support we talked about. It could actually end up widening achievement gaps for already disadvantaged students.
So the AI could accidentally make things less fair if the data it learned from was skewed. Yikes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And another risk is just plain old quality control. AI is famous for confidently making stuff up, those hallucinations. Teachers have to critically check any AI-generated content before putting it in front of students. Professor Arrowwood's, quote, crude AI-generated handouts are a perfect example of that risk becoming reality.
And what about the human connection itself? Isn't that vital in teaching?
Absolutely fundamental. There's a real worry that relying too much on AI could chip away at that crucial human interaction, the mentorship, the emotional support teachers provide. Teacher unions like the AFT and NEA, they've voiced concerns that AI might be used to try and replace teachers or just devalue their complex role. They emphasize that the important teaching decisions must always stay with the human educator.
So the goal is AI augmenting the teacher, not trying to substitute them.
That seems to be the consensus in these sources, yes. And there's also a major gap in AI literacy and training for teachers themselves.
Meaning?
Many educators just haven't had good professional development on how to actually use these tools effectively, ethically, safely. Reports suggest more teachers are getting some training, but it's uneven, especially in districts with fewer resources.
So even if the tools are there, many teachers might not feel equipped to use them well.
Exactly. And there's a potential efficiency trap, too.
How so?
Just using AI to quickly pump out low-effort content might feel efficient, but it could lead to a drop in the quality and thoughtfulness of teaching materials. It might miss the deeper potential of AI to support more complex, reflective planning.
Okay, so it sounds like for teachers, AI is this powerful opportunity to get time back and personalized learning, but it comes packaged with serious ethical, privacy, bias, and quality challenges. Requires a lot of care, good policies, and a big investment in training.
That sums it up well based on the sources. It's definitely not black and white. It's a really complex set of trade-offs and new responsibilities.
All right, let's flip the coin. What about students? What does AI offer them, according to what we've read?
Well, similar to teachers, personalization is a huge potential benefit. AI can adapt the learning content, the pacing, to fit what an individual student needs. It can give customized feedback, tailored practice problems. Platforms like Dreambox already do this, adjusting things on the fly. That could really help improve outcomes and keep students engaged.
Like having a personalized tutor on call, 24/7.
In some ways, yeah. Tools like ChatGPT can function as intelligent assistants or study buddies. They can help students explore concepts, maybe walk them through homework problems step by step, or just explain tricky ideas in a different way outside of class hours.
What about help with things like research and writing? That seems like a big one.
Oh, massive. And it's an area where students are already heavily using AI, let's be honest.
For what exactly?
Brainstorming ideas, maybe generating a first draft or an outline, summarizing really dense texts, organizing notes, even finding potential sources, although that last one needs huge caution flags for verification,
Right.
and even help with citation formatting. The sources suggest that if it's used thoughtfully as a tool to support and improve the writing process, not just replace it, it can actually be beneficial.
And just preparing them for a future that's clearly going to involve a lot of AI.
Absolutely. Just interacting with these tools helps students build AI literacy, plus other tech skills that are going to be valuable in pretty much any career they go into.
What about accessibility?
Yeah, big potential there too.
Hmm.
AI-powered assistive tech, think advanced speech-to-text, translation tools, interfaces that adapt these can make a huge difference for students with disabilities or language barriers. makes education potentially more inclusive.
Making learning maybe more engaging.
Yeah, a lot of AI-driven educational platforms use interactive elements, simulations, maybe gamification to make learning feel more dynamic. That can definitely boost motivation for some students.
Okay, so personalization, tutoring help, research writing assistance, skill building, accessibility, engagement. Sounds like a lot of potential pluses for students.
Yeah.
But where are the big risks,
Mhm.
the challenges?
The most immediate one, the one everyone talks about, is academic dishonesty, plagiarism.
Right.
Students using AI to just generate work and passing it off as their own. That's a massive headache for teachers and institutions. And that line between using AI as a legitimate tool versus using it to cheat is, well, it's blurry, and we're still trying to draw it.
I remember seeing some stats in the sources about how much students are actually using it.
You did. There was a HEPI survey, I think, showing a really high percentage of students admitting they'd use generative AI in assessments, and a pretty significant chunk admitted just pasting in AI text without citing it.
Wow. So it's widespread and often crossing that line into misconduct.
Seems like it. And then there's the deeper question. If AI is doing all the heavy lifting, what happens to students' own critical thinking skills?
Yeah, that feels profound.
It really is. If you rely too much on AI to just give you the answers or write the essay, you might not develop those essential skills thinking critically, solving problems yourself, analyzing information, putting ideas together in your own way. If getting the right answer is too easy with AI, why bother with the hard cognitive work needed for deep learning? Some research even suggests people who are overconfident in AI might actually score lower on critical thinking tests.
So the easier AI makes it to get the answer, the less practice you get actually thinking.
That's the danger, yeah. It comes back to how students use it.
Yep.
Using AI to summarize something as a starting point for your own analysis, that's very different from just copying and pasting its summary uncritically.
And AI isn't always right either. We talked about those hallucinations.
Exactly. AI tools can spit out stuff that's just plain wrong or biased. Students need to develop really sophisticated skills to evaluate AI output critically, double-check facts, look at multiple sources.
Data privacy is an issue for students too, presumably.
Definitely. When students use these tools, they're generating data. There are big concerns about how that data gets collected, stored, used, protected. Students might be sharing sensitive personal info without even realizing it.
What about equity? Does AI help close gaps or makes them wider?
That's a really complex question. On one hand, AI could offer personalized support and help diverse learners, but unequal access is a huge issue. Access to reliable internet, decent devices, even access to the good AI tools often costs money.
Right.
Students in poorer areas, like the rural U.S. heartland mentioned in one source, might have way less opportunity to use AI or attend schools that haven't figured out policies yet compared to kids in wealthier urban districts.
Yeah.
And if the tools themselves are biased, like we discussed, they can disadvantage certain groups too.
So AI could be an equity tool, but without really careful planning, it might just amplify existing inequalities.
That's the fear. Without deliberate strategies for equitable access and training, the students who already have advantages are probably going to benefit the most, and others could fall even further behind.
And just overdoing it with AI, using it too much.
Could potentially kill intrinsic motivation, right? Lead to just surface-level learning instead of deep understanding. Hinder actually remembering stuff. Students might just focus on getting the task done, checking the box, rather than really grappling with the concepts.
And the social side, learning isn't just about information transfer.
Good point. If AI interaction starts replacing valuable face-to-face time with teachers and classmates, it could definitely contribute to feelings of isolation.
So for students,
Mm-hmm.
amazing potential for personalized learning and help, but huge challenges around academic integrity, developing core thinking skills, accuracy, privacy, and equity.
Wow. And surveys consistently show students know this. They feel unprepared for an AI world. Many specifically say they want more guidance, more resources from their schools on how to use AI responsibly, ethically, effectively. They're basically asking for the guardrails.
That leads us perfectly into how institutions, governments are trying to actually build those guardrails. What does the policy landscape look like right now?
Well, as that Northeast case really drove home, the main theme is playing catch-up.
Yeah.
The tech is just moving incredibly fast, and institutions are scrambling to create policies that make sense. Surveys confirm it. Lots of universities, school districts, they're still very much in the process of drafting or rolling out clear AI guidelines.
So a clear need for action. What should good policies cover based on what the sources suggest?
They need to be pretty comprehensive, cover AI use by both teachers and students in teaching, learning, research, even admin stuff. Key areas have to be defining what's acceptable use, tackling data privacy, addressing academic integrity, setting clear ethical standards, and critically important, they need to be communicated clearly to everyone.
Like that example of Denver Metropolitan State University requiring AI statements in every single syllabus.
That's one approach, yeah, making it unavoidable.
Given how fast AI changes, these policies can't be set in stone, right?
No way. The sources suggest they should probably function more like dynamic frameworks or guiding principles rather than rigid rules that are outdated next month. Regular review, getting input from everyone involved, students, teachers, staff, that's essential. The California State University System's adaptive framework was mentioned as an example of trying to do that.
Beyond individual schools or districts, what about bigger ethical principles? Are international organizations weighing in?
Oh, definitely. Organizations like UNESCO are really taking the lead on developing global ethical frameworks. A core principle they push is human centricity,
Meaning,
meaning AI in education should enhance human abilities and interaction, not replace human judgment or connection. Especially for high-stakes decisions affecting students or teachers, there needs to be meaningful human oversight. UNESCO's big recommendation on the ethics of AI, adopted by like 193 countries, really hammers home these points. Human rights, transparency, equity, oversight.
and they also have those competency frameworks for teachers and students we mentioned earlier.
Yes, giving guidance on the actual skills people need to navigate AI ethically and effectively. They've also put out specific guidance just for generative AI in education, always focusing on inclusion, equity, closing digital divides, putting human needs first.
What about other global players? The OECD?
Yeah. The OECD focuses a lot on AI's impact on skills and the job market and how education needs to adapt. They promote the idea of trustworthy AI. They have their own AI principles and are working with the European Commission on an AI literacy framework for school kids. And notably, they plan to include AI literacy questions in future PISA tests.
Wow, putting AI literacy into PISA, those international student assessments, that really signals its importance globally.
It absolutely does. It says AI literacy is becoming seen as a fundamental skill worldwide. The OECD also does research comparing human skills to AI capabilities, trying to figure out how education needs to change.
Okay, how are different countries actually putting policies into practice? Let's start with the U.S. What's the approach there?
The U.S. tends to be less about top-down federal mandates and more about incentives and encouraging adoption. There was a White House executive order promoting AI literacy, putting priority on AI training and teacher grants, and encouraging partnerships between schools and tech companies for K-12 AI.
And individual states are doing their own thing, too.
Increasingly, yes. More states are issuing guidance, sometimes even regulations. Colorado's AI Act is interesting because it actually regulates high-risk AI systems, and that could include certain educational uses. State education departments are putting out guidance on AI's potential, the risks, privacy, bias, the need for human oversight, and boosting AI literacy.
What about the EU? They seem ahead on regulation generally.
They are. The European Union passed the landmark AI Act. That's the world's first comprehensive AI law. It uses a risk-based approach. And certain AI uses in education, ones that could really impact people's lives or opportunities, are classified as high risk.
Meaning they face stricter rules.
Exactly. Stricter requirements for data quality, transparency, human oversight, accuracy, things like that.
Okay, how about Australia?
They've gone for a more collaborative approach. All the state and territory education ministers got together and approved a national framework for generative AI in school.
A unified approach.
Yeah, providing guidance for schools on responsible ethical use, emphasizing student learning, ethics, equity, inclusion. They even developed specific guidance materials just for parents, which is interesting.
Canada.
There's a push for a national K-12 AI framework there, partly driven by the Canadian Teachers Federation. They're focused on equity, transparency, accountability, big concerns about potential data breaches and making sure federal AI laws properly cover education. Some provinces already have their own AI guidelines for schools, too.
And the UK.
In the UK, the Department for Education has basically said teachers can use AI using their professional judgment for things like lesson planning, drafting emails, but individual schools are responsible for setting their own specific rules.
So more localized control.
Yes, operating within existing laws, especially data protection. The guidance is clear, though. AI should assist teachers, not replace them. And they offer policy templates for schools to adapt.
Looking over to Asia, Singapore often seems ahead on tech adoption.
They do. Singapore has a national AI strategy and a big EdTech master plan. They really see AI systemically as a tool for national development, including in education. They're rolling out AI tools for personalized learning, admin tasks, and have specific programs just to train teachers on using AI.
And China. You mentioned a very different, more centralized approach there.
Oh, a very different model, yeah. China's Ministry of Education has national guidelines that actually mandate AI education in primary and secondary schools by 2025.
Mandated.
Yes. It's a tiered system focused on AI literacy, with required AI classes starting as early as first grade. They have to have at least 8 hours of AI instruction per year.
Mandatory AI classes from age 6 or 7. That's a level of integration we're definitely not seeing in the West.
It's a significant policy divergence. They also have specific rules for students, like prohibiting very young kids from using open-ended AI tools by themselves, and for teachers, saying they shouldn't rely solely or entirely on AI for teaching or grading. It's a very structured, top-down strategy.
India also has a national strategy, right?
Yes, India's national AI strategy names education as a key focus. They're pushing for curriculum reform to bring in AI concepts, promoting personalized learning via AI, and advocating for a broader shift towards skills-based education, including AI and STEM.
Okay, so globally, everyone seems to recognize AI is a big deal for education, huge potential. But the way they're implementing it varies wildly. Mandatory classes, incentives, national guidelines, comprehensive laws.
Absolutely. While you have organizations like UNESCO and OECD offering these guiding ethical principles, the boots-on-the-ground implementation is all over the map. Depends on the national context, their philosophy of education, their priorities. China's mandatory early start is just a world away from the U.S. incentive model, and the EU's legal approach is different again from Australia's collaborative guidance. The common denominator is realizing AI's impact, but the strategies for managing it are really diverse.
And underlying all these global discussions is that fundamental tension we keep coming back to, isn't it? The excitement about using AI for efficiency and personalization
Right.
versus these deep concerns about privacy, bias, and not losing the essential human side of education.
That tension is absolutely central to policy debates everywhere. Countries are trying to strike that balance. National strategies often hype the efficiency and personalization wins, while the ethical frameworks, the teacher unions, parent groups, they often raise the red flags about data privacy, algorithmic bias, the irreplaceable role of human teachers. It's a complex negotiation, definitely not just pro-AI versus anti-AI.
And for any of these strategies to actually work, it seems like building AI literacy across the whole system, not just for students, but crucially for teachers, administrators, that's non-negotiable.
Utterly critical. But the investment in that, the strategies for building that literacy, they vary hugely around the world too. And that could actually create new divides, right? AI literacy gaps not just between people, but between whole countries, depending on how well they train their educators and integrate AI into schools. If that's not handled equitably, some students and nations will just be much better prepared for the AI era than others.
So navigating AI in education isn't just a tech problem. It's a deep social, ethical policy challenge. Based on everything in the sources, what are some key recommendations moving forward? Where do we go from here?
Okay, for educational institutions themselves, universities, school districts' top priority seems to be developing those comprehensive but flexible AI policies.
A living document.
Exactly. They need to be clear, updated regularly, and really important, developed with input from everybody. Teachers, students, staff.
So not just handed down from the top office.
No, and they need to cover the bases. Academic integrity, data privacy, ethical use, transparency for both students and teachers, clarity on what's allowed, what needs disclosure, what counts as misconduct is just essential.
And invest heavily in AI literacy training.
Absolutely foundational. Mandatory, ongoing professional development for teachers that goes beyond just, here's how to use the tool. It has to cover pedagogy, ethics, spotting bias, data privacy, and integrate AI literacy into the student curriculum too, teaching responsible use, critical evaluation of AI outputs, understanding its wider impact.
What about the tools themselves, how they're chosen?
Ethical procurement, yeah. Institutions need to vet AI tools carefully. Check their data security, privacy compliance, potential for bias, and whether they actually offer real teaching value. and ensure they're accessible to all students, provide non-AI options if needed.
And rethinking how we assess students.
Yes, this is a big one the sources mention. Moving away from traditional assignments that AI can just complete on its own, designing assessments that demand higher order thinking, creativity, applying knowledge in new ways, focusing more on the process of learning, not just the final essay AI might have helped write.
What about those AI detection tools? Use them or not?
The sources are pretty clear. Use them very cautiously, if at all. Tools like Turnitin's detector have shown questionable reliability, lots of false positives. They can unfairly flag students, especially non-native English speakers or those with unique writing styles.
So don't rely on them as the magic bullet for catching cheaters.
Definitely not. They should be, at most, one tiny piece of evidence in a much bigger strategy that's really about fostering a culture of integrity and relying on human judgment, not just trusting flawed tech.
So foster a conversation and oversight instead.
Yeah, encourage open talk about AI's role, its pluses, its minuses among students and staff.
Yeah.
And always ensure meaningful human oversight in any AI-driven decisions that really impact students or teachers.
Okay, what about for individual teachers? What should they be doing?
Think of AI like a powerful co-pilot, not the autopilot.
I like that analogy.
Use it to enhance your teaching, save time on tedious stuff, personalized learning maybe, but always keep your critical human judgment front and center. You're still the lead teacher. And be transparent with students. Be really clear about your expectations for AI use in your class for specific assignments. Tell them if you're using AI to help create materials or assist with grading.
And actively teach students how to use AI critically.
Yes. Guide them on good prompting, how to evaluate AI output for accuracy and bias, how to properly cite or acknowledge AI help when it's allowed.
Design assignments differently.
Yeah, create tasks that either need unique human skills AI just can't do, or design assignments that explicitly require students to use AI responsibly as part of the learning process itself. And finally, commit to learning yourself. Stay updated on AI, seek out professional development, figure out how to integrate these tools thoughtfully.
Okay, and for students, key takeaways for them.
Use AI responsibly and ethically. Know the rules, your institution's policy, your instructor's specific rules. Learn the difference between using AI as a helpful study aid versus academic misconduct. Develop those critical evaluation skills. AI output is not gospel. Practice checking facts, verifying sources, thinking critically about whatever the AI tells you. Focus on genuine learning, deep understanding, not just getting the assignment done. Use AI to help you grasp concepts, explore ideas, build skills not just as a shortcut. Be mindful of your data privacy. Be careful what personal info you share, especially with free AI platforms. And speak up. Advocate for clear guidance and support from your school. Let them know you need help navigating this and building your own AI literacy.
Lastly, for the policymakers, governments, international bodies.
Develop those national or regional AI strategies for education. Provide frameworks for ethical, fair, effective AI integration. Ensure broad access. Fund research. We need more solid evidence on AI's actual effectiveness in teaching, its ethical impacts, how to fight bias, how to build trustworthy educational AI. Prioritize and fund AI literacy programs, not just for students, but for teachers, administrators, parents, the public, and establish and enforce clear data privacy and security standards specifically for AI in education. Protect student data robustly.
And encourage collaboration.
Absolutely. Get schools, tech developers, researchers, international groups talking to each other. Share knowledge, develop best practices, tackle common challenges together.
It's really clear this is a complex, multi-layered challenge. No single solution, no quick fixes.
Not at all. It's this intricate dance between technology, policy, teaching methods, ethics, culture. Just throwing AI tools out there or issuing a policy without investing in training, rethinking teaching, or building an ethical culture, that's just not going to cut it.
And woven through all these recommendations, all these global approaches, we keep hitting that central tension, don't we? The push to innovate, embrace the potential.
Right.
Versus the equally strong pull towards caution, regulation, and making sure we protect the human core of education.
Finding that sweet spot, that balance, that's the absolute key for integrating AI sustainably in education, that Northeast case, right? University promotes AI, but a student has a bad experience because the use wasn't really regulated or transparent. It perfectly captures that tension. How we manage that balance is going to define AI's real impact on learning's future.
And maybe, ultimately, success hinges on shifting our focus.
Yeah.
Moving away from just trying to detect and prevent misuse, that AI arms race we talked about, towards actively cultivating what you might call AI-augmented human intelligence.
focusing on a future where things like critical thinking, creativity, ethical reasoning, those unique human skills are valued most highly. And AI becomes a tool that genuinely enhances those abilities. The emphasis in the recommendations on critical evaluation, human oversight, valuing higher order thinking and how we assess students that points towards this more constructive vision, where AI boosts human potential rather than diminishing it or just replacing basic tasks.
Wow. Okay. So we started with one student demanding her tuition back because she thought her professor overused AI.
Yeah, that $8,000 demand.
And we've really journeyed across this incredibly complex global map of AI policy, ethics, and the very value of human teaching.
It's been quite the deep dive, hasn't it? We've seen AI as undeniably here. It offers really significant potential efficiency, personalization for teachers and students. Tools like Conmigo, Microsoft Copilot, they're showing what's possible.
But we've also stared right into the challenges. The risks of cheating, the danger of algorithmic bias making things unfair, the potential loss of critical thinking skills if we get too reliant, and that absolute need for transparency, which the Northeast incident just threw into sharp relief.
And policies are definitely playing catch up. The tech adoption curve was just way steeper than the institutional rulemaking curve.
Yeah, and building AI literacy for everyone. Teachers, students, parents, policymakers. It's not just a nice to have. It feels essential if we're going to navigate this responsibly. Understanding the power, but also the pitfalls like AI hallucinations or those unreliable detection tools.
And we saw the world is trying really different things, right? From China mandating AI classes in first grade to the US using more of an incentive model. There's no single playbook yet.
So whether you're sitting in a classroom right now or maybe standing at the front of one, helping your own kids with homework, or just thinking about how we learn down the road, AI is going to reshape that experience.
Yeah.
Those tensions we explored today, efficiency versus connection, innovation versus integrity, potential versus privacy, those are things we all have to grapple with now.
Which really raises a final important question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With these AI tools getting better and better at writing essays, solving problems, completing tasks, are we just stuck in an endless AI arms race, constantly trying to build better detectors, policing misuse?
Or should this whole thing be pushing us to fundamentally rethink what we teach and how we assess it?
Exactly. Shifting the focus away from the kinds of tasks AI can easily do anyway, and putting much more value on cultivating those uniquely human skills, critical thinking, creativity, empathy, ethical reasoning, the stuff AI can't replicate.
Ensuring AI actually serves to enhance human intelligence, human potential, rather than just replacing bits of it or making us intellectually lazy.
That feels like something really worth thinking about as we keep diving into the future of learning.